All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into a book that will really, really make you think.
Literally.
It's called Don't Believe Everything You Think. And it dives into this wild idea that our thoughts,
Mm.
not what's actually happening around us, are the real root of our problems.
It's interesting. We often assume our feelings are just natural reactions to whatever is going on.
Yeah.
But this book kind of flips that script, showing how our thoughts act like almost a lens shaping everything we experience.
The book actually starts with a quote from Sydney Banks. He says, "Thought is not reality, yet it is through thought that our realities are created." Deep, right?
It is. And then it goes on and gives this really easy to grasp example about two people just hanging out in a coffee shop.
Okay, I'm picturing it. Same coffee shop, same lattes.
Same everything, but one of these people is just completely spiraling, worrying about work, relationships, the future,
Right.
feeling completely alone. And then you've got the other person just completely relaxed, in the moment, maybe reading a book, enjoying the atmosphere.
Huh. Same exact situation, but completely different realities. Just
Yeah.
playing out in their minds like two different movies.
Exactly. Two totally different movies.
I bet everyone listening can think of a time where you were in what should have been a really good situation, but you just couldn't shake these negative thoughts.
Yeah. I know I can think of a few.
Me too. And what's wild is the book says this isn't just like affecting our mood. It impacts how we see even the most basic things, like a politician or celebrity.
Right. Just picture a survey asking people what they think about, let's say, a president.
Uh-huh.
It's the same person, but you're going to get 100 different opinions,
Mm-hmm.
all shaped by their own unique way of thinking.
So we each live in our own thought-created world.
It's true.
Okay, that is pretty heavy stuff.
It is.
And then the book goes even further. It just comes right out and says that our thinking is the root cause of our suffering.
Yeah, and to illustrate this idea, they use this Buddhist analogy.
Huh.
It's the analogy of the two arrows. So life throws those unavoidable punches, heartbreak, disappointments, failures. Like when you stub your toe on the same piece of furniture.
Again, for like the 10th time.
Right, exactly. That's the first arrow.
Okay.
The pain, but then there's our reaction, the replaying it over and over, the why me's, the resistance to what is. That's the second arrow.
And that's where the real suffering comes from.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine hating your job, right?
Mhm.
You're at home, it's the weekend, you should be relaxing, but just the thought of work sends you right back into that stressed out feeling.
You're not even at work,
It's not even happening.
but your thoughts are creating that feeling right now.
So powerful. And the thing is, we actually have a choice.
Right.
The first arrow, the initial pain, yeah, we can't always avoid that. But that second arrow, that's all us.
We fire that one ourselves.
Okay, so thinking can cause suffering, but then the book gets really interesting. It makes a distinction between thoughts and thinking.
Right. So think about your thoughts like raw ingredients. They're just delivered to your door, neutral, full of potential.
Yeah.
You can use them to make something great, or you can let them just go to waste.
So thinking is what we do with those ingredients.
It is. It's the chopping, the dicing, adding all the spices and flavors. In this case, it's our anxieties and doubts.
So can you give me an example of how thinking can kind of ruin a perfectly good thought?
Yeah, there's this thought experiment in the book about money.
Okay.
Imagine you have the thought, I want to earn $100,000 this year. That's an exciting thought, full of possibility, right?
Yeah.
But then thinking kicks in, what if I fail?
What if I'm not good enough?
What will people think? Now suddenly that spark is gone.
And it's replaced by fear and doubt.
Exactly. The thought was the seed, and then thinking just choked it out.
Yeah, the book has this really cool chart,
Hmm.
which I think helps a lot to really break down the difference between thoughts and thinking.
Yeah, it really highlights how thoughts are naturally light, expansive, but thinking tends to feel heavy, limiting, and all about what could go wrong.
And I know some people listening right now might be thinking, well, don't I need to think positive to feel good?
Right.
And this is where the book gets really, really interesting
It does.
because it challenges that entire idea.
Right. It asks you to remember, like really remember, a time of just pure joy, like that peak experience,
Uh-huh.
that moment of pure bliss, and ask yourself, were there any thoughts present in that moment?
Interesting.
And a lot of people realize there weren't. It was just pure feeling.
So are you saying we don't even need to think positive to feel good?
Well, that's the argument. The book says our natural state just is joy, love, freedom, gratitude,
Wow.
all that good stuff.
Okay, I mean, that's kind of counterintuitive.
It is.
But think about a baby. They're just naturally blissed out. It's thinking that kind of blocks that natural state.
It clouds our peace with worries and doubts.
Okay, that flips the script. Our natural state is happiness, and it's thinking that messes it all up.
It is.
So to really unpack this further, the book introduces this framework. It's called The Three Principles of Human Experience.
Sounds intense.
It does, a little bit, but I promise it's actually pretty simple once you break it down.
It is. It is.
So these principles are universal mind, consciousness, and thought.
All right, so break those down for me.
So what exactly is universal mind?
Imagine like the source of everything, the energy flowing through the entire universe. It's what guides everything.
From the growth of trees to the movement of the planets.
Even the healing of a cut on your finger.
It's like this universal intelligence that connects us all.
It is. And the book says that when we're tapped into that universal mind, we just feel whole.
Yeah.
Overflowing with love and joy. It's only when we get lost in our thinking, in that illusion of separateness, that we block that flow and start feeling all these negative emotions.
Okay, that's universal mind. That's like the source. Now what about consciousness?
Consciousness is your awareness, your ability to perceive through your senses. Without it, there would be no experience of life.
So it's like a screen where everything plays out.
Yeah, perfect. It's like a screen.
And thought is the movie playing on that screen.
Exactly. It's the content of our experience. So we have consciousness, like a DVD player, and the DVDs are our thoughts.
And those shape what we actually perceive. It's a constant interplay.
It is.
Universal mind is the power source, consciousness is the screen, and thoughts as the content playing out.
To make it even clearer, the book uses this really helpful analogy.
Yeah.
Imagine the universal mind as like the electricity powering a TV
Right.
and a DVD player.
Okay.
So consciousness is like the TV itself.
And thoughts are like the DVDs that we choose.
Exactly. So what kind of movie are you playing for yourself right now?
That is such a great way to visualize it. But the big question is, if thinking is the problem, how do we actually stop thinking?
So the book addresses that. It says it's not about literally shutting off our brain. Right. That's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
It's about detaching, learning to observe those thoughts without getting completely swept away by them.
So like ending that mental tug of war.
Yeah.
I love this Zen story that they tell about the samurai who's demanding to know the difference between heaven and hell.
I know that one.
And the monk insults him. And the samurai, he gets so angry, he draws his sword, ready to strike.
And what does the monk say?
The monk just calmly says, "That's hell."
Right.
And the samurai, in that instant, realizes how his own anger created his own personal hell. He calms down, filled with gratitude.
And the monk says,
"That's heaven."
such a great story.
Right.
It really illustrates how our reactions, fueled by thinking, are what creates that suffering.
Yeah, we're not saying eliminate all thoughts. It's more about noticing them, but not letting them totally carry us away.
The book has some really good analogies for this.
Okay, like what?
Like the analogy of the dirty water, if you keep stirring it up, it just stays murky. But if you let it settle, the clarity will reveal itself.
Our minds are the same way.
Exactly. And then there's the quicksand analogy. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink.
But if you surrender,
You can actually float.
I really love that it's like shifting from constantly striving to just being.
It is.
But I think a lot of people might be wondering, well, what about our goals and dreams? If we stop thinking, do we just give up on everything?
Yeah, and the book addresses this directly. Letting go of that constant thinking doesn't mean we have to abandon our goals and dreams.
Oh, how does that work?
They introduce this idea of two different types of goals.
Okay.
Goals from desperation and goals from inspiration.
Well, what are those desperation goals? They don't sound very fun.
No, not really. They're fueled by scarcity, fear, that feeling of not being enough, like you need to achieve something to prove yourself.
Okay, so it's that feeling of, I have to do this, I need to achieve this.
Yes, and they feel heavy, draining, and even when you achieve them, the satisfaction is very fleeting.
I think we've all set those kinds of goals just out of that pressure, that have to, energy.
It's exhausting.
And then there are the goals from inspiration.
Imagine a goal that just feels light, energizing. Even the pursuit itself is joyful. Those are guided by a deep sense of purpose, alignment with your true self.
Like if you already had all the money in the world, what would you create just for the pure joy of it?
Yeah, those are usually the goals that come from inspiration.
That's such a good point. It's like trusting that when we really align with our purpose, the how will naturally unfold.
It will.
And that brings us to another important concept, unconditional love and creation.
Two very big words.
Yeah, so what do they mean in this context?
So the book tells this great story about the author and his girlfriend.
Okay.
He was thinking about, all the reasons he loved her, her laugh, her kindness, all these very specific things.
Hmm.
And he asked her, "Why do you love me?"
Okay.
And she simply says, "I don't know, I just do."
Oh.
Right. And that's when it hit him.
That love doesn't need a reason.
Exactly. It just is. Right. He realized that by listing all the reasons for his love, it was like he was putting conditions on it.
Hmm.
But her love was just there, unconditionally.
Okay, so that's pure unconditional love, acceptance, just being. But how does that connect to creation?
Well, the book says true creation flows the same way, effortlessly, without expectations or conditions.
Hmm.
Like, think about a kid drawing or building something. They're not worried about selling it or impressing anyone. It's just pure joy.
So letting go of that need to control, just creating from the heart.
Exactly.
Which brings us to another key concept, intuition.
That inner voice.
I am so guilty of ignoring my intuition.
Oh, we all are.
Outfit.
So often. But the book describes it as like a real-time guidance system, a connection to something bigger.
Hmm.
And it can lead to amazing outcomes. It's like a superpower we all have.
But we forget to use it.
We do. We overthink. We doubt it. We try to logic our way out of it.
So the book is saying that faith is key, trusting that inner voice, even when it doesn't make logical sense.
Yeah, they give examples of people who did that, follow their intuition despite not knowing why.
And it led them to incredible experiences.
It did.
It's like learning to trust that inner GPS,
Yeah,
even when we don't know the destination.
it is.
Okay, I think this is a good place to pause for today.
Mm.
Let our listener really digest everything we've covered.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So before we jump into part 2, I want to leave you with this thought. What if everything you thought was a limitation was actually an invitation to discover a deeper truth about yourself?
I like that.
We'll pick up right here next time, diving into some practical tips on how to actually apply all this in your life.
I can't wait.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive. Last time, remember we were talking about this whole idea that our thoughts, not things happening outside of us, are at the root of most of our struggles.
It's like we've been playing life on hard mode,
Cool.
But the great thing about this book is it doesn't just leave us with these big ideas. It gives us real tools, things we can actually do.
Okay, so where do we even start with all this? What's step 1 on this journey to less suffering and more happiness?
Well, the book, it talks about creating what they call a non-thinking environment. And they acknowledge real change has to come from inside us,
Yeah.
But our surroundings, the things around us, can either help or make it a lot harder.
That makes sense. Like if you're always stressed out or around negative people.
Yeah, or just bombarded with negativity.
It's got to be harder to find that peace. So we have to kind of clear out the clutter in our lives.
Exactly. So take a look around you. What are the things in your life that really send your mind into overdrive?
Okay.
Especially the things that trigger that fight or flight feeling, like that feeling of stress. The book suggests really looking at everything from your physical health to your digital habits.
So what kinds of things should we be looking to get rid of or just reduce?
Let's start with food. Are there certain things you eat or drinks that kind of make you feel anxious or just jittery?
Oh, yeah, I know. When I have too much sugar, I feel all over the place. And those negative thoughts, they can really take over.
Right, exactly. And then there's your physical space. Is your workspace a disaster?
Oh, my gosh. Yes. Clutter everywhere.
Is there always noise, distractions? Creating a calm, organized environment, even just having a clean desk can really make a huge difference.
It does. It's like when my space is calm, my mind can also be calm.
Exactly. Your mind can relax.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we can't forget about the digital world. I mean, this can be a huge source of stress for people.
Oh, yeah. Social media.
Social media, email, the constant news cycle.
It's so easy to get sucked into comparing yourself to others or just feeling overwhelmed by all the negativity.
So maybe it's time for a digital detox.
Ooh, I love a good detox.
Yeah, just set some limits on that screen time, Be mindful of what you're consuming online, even taking a break from technology completely.
Yeah, I've done that before. And it's amazing how much calmer I feel when I just unplug for a while.
It's like your mind can finally catch up.
It can.
The book has a really helpful framework. It can help you figure out what those thinking triggers are for you and then what changes will make the biggest impact. It's not about deprivation. It's about being intentional, making choices that support your well-being.
So it's not just about getting rid of the negative stuff. It's also about bringing in the positive, the things that make you feel good.
Exactly. Think about it. What are the things that really help you tap into that peaceful state?
Hmm. Well, I know for me, it's spending time in nature, even just like 5 minutes in my garden,
Yeah.
can
Oh,
totally reset my mood.
that's beautiful. It's like nature has this calming energy.
It does.
The book encourages us to make a list of those positive influences and really intentionally build them into our lives.
It's like we're building this support system
Mm.
to help us stay calm and peaceful.
Exactly. A support system for your inner peace. And, they also talk about morning
Oh,
rituals.
yeah, starting the day off, right?
It can make a world of difference, beginning your day with activities that really promote that peace.
So instead of waking up and checking my phone right away,
Mm.
what if I did some meditation or some gentle stretches? Maybe just enjoyed a cup of tea in silence.
That sounds lovely. It's about consciously choosing how you want to start your day, you know,
Yeah,
instead of just getting swept away by the chaos.
that makes sense.
So we've talked about creating that supportive environment,
Right.
but what about techniques for quieting the mind?
Yeah, how do we actually shift from all that thinking to non-thinking?
One of the most fundamental things that the book emphasizes is simply becoming aware of your thoughts. Noticing when you get caught up in those spirals.
The worries, the doubts.
Yeah, all of that. And then just hitting
So it's
pause.
like becoming an observer of our own thoughts instead of getting lost in them.
Exactly, this awareness, it's the first step to detaching, remembering that you are not your thoughts.
Okay.
We're just like events happening in your mind.
Like those clouds just drifting by.
Yes, and once you're aware of those thoughts, the book suggests creating space for them.
Wait, hold on. Why would I want to create space for my negative thoughts? Shouldn't I be trying to get rid of them?
Here's the thing, resisting them actually makes them stronger.
It does.
Yeah, it's like quicksand, remember. The more you fight it, the deeper you sink.
But if you surrender,
You can float.
okay, so I acknowledge the thought, I accept it's there, but I don't have to let it control me.
Exactly. It's like,
Okay.
hey, thought, I see you, but you're not running the show.
And with practice, those thoughts, they start to lose their power over us.
They do. It's like we go from battling them to peaceful coexistence.
Hmm. The book also talks about focusing on the present moment.
Yes, mindfulness, bringing your attention to right here, right now.
Whenever you notice yourself getting lost in thought,
Notice what's happening in your senses, the sounds, the sights, the feelings. Instead of getting wrapped up in those stories your mind creates
it's like taking a mental snapshot of this exact moment.
and savoring it before your mind wanders off again.
Yeah.
So some techniques for cultivating that present moment awareness, the breath. The breath is so powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Just notice that sensation as you breathe in and as you breathe out. It can really anchor you to the present.
Yeah, that's a classic meditation technique.
It is.
And it's amazing how effective it is.
Even just a few deep breaths
Can really help.
can really calm the mind.
So we can also try engaging our senses more. Really savor the taste of your food.
Smell the flowers.
Listen to the birds.
It's about waking up to the richness of this moment instead of letting it pass by unnoticed.
It's a good reminder to slow down
It is.
and appreciate all those little things.
And speaking of appreciating things, the book also talks about gratitude.
Oh, gratitude is so powerful.
It is. It's like this magnet for good things. Yeah.
Just take a few moments each day and think about what you're grateful for, even the small things. It can shift your perspective in really amazing ways.
Absolutely. And the book also talks about self-compassion, right?
Yes, being kind to ourselves, even when we mess up or fall back into those old patterns.
Because we can be so hard on ourselves.
We can, but this journey, it's not about being perfect, it's about progress.
It's like remembering that we're all works in progress.
We are, and even those small steps forward are worth celebrating.
They are. So when those negative thoughts feel really overwhelming, the book reminds us to come back to those core principles,
The ones we talked about in part one, yeah.
like a mental reset button.
Exactly.
So your thinking is the root of your suffering.
Right.
You are not your thoughts. And your natural state is actually one of well-being.
It is.
Okay, and we can't forget about intuition, that inner wisdom that always has our best interest at heart. It does, but how do you know if it's your intuition or just your regular thinking, the kind that's usually fueled by fear?
That's a good question.
The book actually gives us some clues. So your intuition, it's often just like this gentle nudge, this sense of knowing.
Not a bossy voice.
No, not bossy, more like a whisper.
It's that quiet whisper that gets drowned out by all the other noise.
Yeah, it does.
So we're creating a supportive environment, we're
Mm.
practicing mindfulness, we're
Mm.
tapping into our intuition.
Hmm. It's a whole new way of being.
It is. It's kind of like stepping out of this really noisy, crowded room
Yeah.
into this peaceful, quiet space.
And it might take a while to adjust to that stillness.
Because our minds, they're so used to all the drama.
They are. The book says, be prepared for some
Our
resistance.
minds might try to tell us something's wrong, that we're not doing enough.
Exactly. It's like they don't know what to do with peace and quiet.
Yeah.
But remember, that feeling of peace, it's actually a really good sign.
It means we're on the right track, we're connecting with our true nature.
Exactly. Trusting that peace and ease aren't laziness, but rather that we're living in alignment with who we really are.
Beautifully said. And, this is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
There will be times when you slip back into those old patterns,
Yeah.
those old ways of thinking. But the key is just to gently bring yourself back to that awareness, back to non-thinking, and remember that your natural state is one of well-being.
So we just have to be patient with ourselves.
And have compassion. We're all learning.
Yeah, even the most spiritual people experience challenges. It's not about perfect non-thinking. It's about constantly coming back to that awareness.
Yes, it's like we're building a muscle.
The muscle of mindfulness.
Yeah.
And the more we use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And it's important to celebrate your progress, too,
Yeah.
Notice how far you've come. Even those small shifts in your thinking.
Can make a big difference.
They can.
It's like we're uncovering these hidden gems of peace and clarity within ourselves. And as you become more aware, you might start noticing patterns in your behavior that aren't really serving you anymore.
Habits, those pesky habits.
Pesky habits, the ones that can get us stuck in these cycles of negativity and self-sabotage.
Okay, so how do we break free from those?
Well, the book has some great insights on this, and it starts with awareness. Noticing the specific behavior you want to change and really looking at the thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs that are driving that behavior.
So it's not about just using willpower to force ourselves to change.
No.
It's about really understanding why we do the things we do.
Exactly. So ask yourself, what am I feeling right before I do this? What am I thinking? And most importantly, is it even true that I need to do this?
So we're challenging those beliefs, seeing if they're actually true.
And as you start to question them, those old beliefs, they start to lose their power. You're taking back control of your mind.
And as those limiting beliefs crumble, we make space for new ones.
More empowering beliefs.
Okay, so it's a process. There will be setbacks, times when we fall back into old patterns.
Of course, but be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Learn from those experiences and keep moving forward.
It's trusting that we have the power to break free from those old habits and create new ones that really align with who we are.
The book is full of inspiring stories of people who have done just that,
Yeah.
They transform their lives by changing their thinking and their behavior.
So it's a reminder that change is possible, that we can create the lives we truly desire.
It is.
It's about remembering that we're all capable of amazing things.
If we're willing to do the work.
And this book encourages us to embrace that journey, that transformation.
And trust the process.
Celebrate every step we take toward feeling more peace, joy, and fulfillment.
I think this is a good place to pause.
Okay.
Let our listeners really absorb everything we've covered so far.
We've talked about practical techniques and ways to break free from those bad habits.
It's amazing how much potential we all have for positive change.
So in part 3, we'll explore the final chapters of the book. They go even deeper into the nature of reality, intuition, and what it really means to live a life free from suffering.
A life full of joy and purpose.
I can't wait. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Don't Believe Everything You Think. It's been a wild ride exploring this idea that our thoughts really shape our reality, but we can also find so much freedom when we learn to let go of that control.
It really is a journey of uncovering, isn't it? We've talked about creating a calmer environment, becoming more mindful of those thought patterns, and even, breaking free from those habits that aren't serving us.
So now we're getting into those deeper truths, the stuff that might seem a little counterintuitive at first.
But it's the stuff that can really set us free.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with those deeper truths. What's the first mind bender?
Well, the book says, and this is a big one, it says, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
That reminds me of that Shakespeare quote. There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Right.
From Hamlet.
But how can that be true? I mean, we label things as good or bad all the time. It's like instinctual.
It is, but the book is challenging us to see that those labels, they're just thoughts,
Okay.
just mental constructs we've built up based on our own beliefs and
Hmm.
experiences. It's like imagine a piano with all those keys. None of those keys are good or bad on their own.
Right. It's how we play them,
Yeah,
the melody we create that makes us feel a certain way.
exactly. It's the same with life. There are so many events and situations and people.
Mm.
None of them are inherently good or bad. It's our thinking, our judgments that really shape how we experience everything.
So something that one person might think is a terrible tragedy could be seen as an opportunity by someone else.
Yeah, it all comes down to perspective.
And the book even says that those things we often label as bad might actually hold hidden blessings,
Mhm.
opportunities to learn and grow.
What if those challenges are actually like signposts pointing us in any direction? I like that. So it's about shifting from judgment to curiosity.
Mm.
Instead of labeling everything, we're just observing.
It's like taking off those mental blinders, seeing the world with fresh eyes.
I love that. And we can practice this in any area of our lives.
We can.
Our relationships, our work, even our political views.
When we loosen the grip of those judgments,
Yeah.
we can open ourselves up to more understanding, more compassion.
So it's not about changing what happens to us. It's about changing how we think and feel about it.
Exactly.
But that leads to another question. If we let go of all that judging and overthinking, how do we even know what to do?
That's the paradox, isn't it? We rely so much on our thinking, our logical mind.
We do.
But the book suggests there's another source of wisdom, a deeper knowing, and it speaks to us through intuition.
Intuition, that gut feeling. We've
Mm.
talked about this a little bit, but it's so important.
It is.
Learning to trust those nudges, even when they don't make logical sense.
And the book says intuition isn't some magical power. It's a natural capacity. We all have it.
So how do we tap into that? How do we get better at listening to our intuition?
Well, one of the most powerful ways is to practice quieting the mind,
Mm-hmm.
creating those moments of stillness.
So that inner voice can finally be heard.
Yes, it's like turning down the volume on all that mental chatter
Right.
and then having the courage to trust it,
Taking those leaps of faith.
even when we don't have all the answers.
It's like those big decisions in life. Sometimes they're made from the heart, not the head.
And the book shares so many stories of people who did that, they followed their intuition
Even when it seems crazy.
and it led to amazing things. They
Yeah.
took chances, they trusted that inner voice.
Okay, so we're questioning our judgments. We're tuning into our intuition. We're seeing the world in a whole new way. But what happens next? The book is called Don't Believe Everything You Think. So what are we supposed to believe instead?
That's the amazing part. It's not about replacing one set of beliefs with another set of beliefs.
So-
It's about discovering a deeper truth
Hmm?
that goes beyond beliefs altogether. You are already whole, complete, capable of experiencing incredible joy,
Wow.
regardless of what you think.
So it's not about achieving something outside of ourselves.
No.
It's about uncovering something that's already there,
That's a beautiful way to put it. We've been searching for something.
that's been within us all along.
And it's not always easy to remember that,
Sure.
especially when life gets tough. But the more we practice these principles, the easier it becomes to come back to that place of peace.
To tap into that inner joy and wisdom.
That's in all of us.
This has been an amazing journey,
It has.
exploring this book with you. And I think Don't Believe Everything You Think is one of those books that really sticks with you. It's a reminder to always be questioning, exploring, and to remember how much power we have within us.
I agree. And I hope everyone listening feels inspired to continue this journey,
Yeah.
to keep challenging their thoughts and to embrace the freedom that comes with letting go.
Absolutely. Our deep dive might be over, but your exploration is just beginning. Trust yourself, trust the process, and keep believing in the power of your own mind.
Beautiful.